your permission, can we start the program, madam?
Yes, madam. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, organizing team, please start the program. Anita madam is there as well as Priya madam is there with us. Vikas Sware sir and Sujit Chauhan sir will be there. So we can start with the program. Hello, Harsh. Harsh Anchal, Harsh Betty.
So, hello and good morning everyone. Myself Bhumika Patil from class FY BMMC. I would like to welcome you all to this wonderful webinar organized by the NSS and the Student Council of VES ASC. Firstly, before heading towards anything, I request everybody to stand up for the national anthem and NSS song. Thank you.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे समाज के लिए उठे उठे जगे स्वराष्ट्र के लिए जगे जगे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे हम उठे उठे गजब हमारे संग साथियों सब बढ़ेंगे अपने आप साथियों ज़मीन पे आसमान को उतार दे ज़मीन पे आसमान को उतार दे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे को बांटते चले गाँव और शहर की दूरियों को काटते चले ज्ञान को प्रचार दे प्रसार दे ज्ञान को प्रचार दे प्रसार दे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे और नारियां रहे सदा बड़े बड़े बनों की शान ओढ़ती रहे धरा तरक्कियों की एक नई कतार दे तरक्कियों की एक नई कतार दे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा सवार दे धर्म बोलिया बने न शूल राह की, बढ़ाए बेल प्रेम की अखंडता की चाह की। सद्भावना से ये चमन निखार दे, सद्भावना से ये चमन निखार दे।
स्वयं सजीव सुंदरा संवार दे,
स्वयं सदैव सुंदरा संवार दे।
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Okay, so moving ahead on this session of National Youth Day, here we are with the VES LARC team for the amazing webinar on independence with responsibility. These two words, independence and responsibility, are related qualities that help us succeed in adult life. Responsibility can be defined as the ability to control and manage one's life, whereas independence can be defined as the ability to take responsibility for one's life. Now, I would like to welcome our principal, Dr. Anita Kanwar ma'am, who is the guiding force of our college and has always motivated and encouraged us to guide the students.
Thank you, Bhumika. So good morning, everyone. I hope I am audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Respected speaker for the day, Mrs. Priya Mukherjee, Madam, Director, Westlark, that is our sister concern, management members, principals of our sister institutions, our Vice Principal, Dr. Shantini Nair, the NSS program officers, Mr. Vikas Ware and Mrs. Sunita Chaudhary, Madam, NSS committee members, all invitees, and my dear teacher and student participants. Warm welcome to you all from Vivekanand Education Society's College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Chembur, Mumbai. I would like to take this opportunity to thank students of NSS and Student Council Committee. I was very happy when proposal to celebrate Swami Vivekanand ji's birth anniversary, 12th January, came from the students. This itself is a big tribute to Swamiji and institutions of Vivekanand Education Society, that we are able to inculcate responsible behavior in our youths. Students, you are the torch bearers of nation. You have to show the path of responsibility to the generations to come. If you become responsible, freedom will automatically follow. Regarding NSS, it is National Service Scheme that itself indicates that it is service for the nation, community or society. You as student, youths of nation should participate in this activity to contribute in making the society stronger, helping the needy individuals without thinking about self. Your participation in NSS activities will be fruitful if you are able to develop your personality through the community service. In the end, I will like to recite few lines in Hindi. स्वयं जागेगा भारत का हर बच्चा तो देश का नवनिर्माण होगा, अपने साथ जगाएगा औरों को भी तो जग का नवनिर्माण होगा। ए युवा, है तेरे भीतर शक्ति इतनी कि तू उठ खड़ा हुआ तो तेरे सामने झुकने को तैयार आसमान होगा। थैंक यू।
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. That was indeed motivating and extremely informative. I would also like to welcome our rest of the teachers and sirs, Vare sir, Sujit sir, and Sunita ma'am. Welcome all, and thanks for getting your precious time to us. And today's guest speaker is none other than Priya Mukherjee ma'am. As you all know, Priya ma'am is always helped us from one thing to another, from small presentations to big interviews, from inner peace of mind to clarity. We all know that ma'am have been an amazing giver of thought. So ma'am, I request you to come and take this webinar forward. which we all are eagerly waiting for. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Bhumika, for that very sweet, very generous introduction. Respected Principal Madam, respected Vice Principal Madam, all the NSS office bearers, all the staff members, teaching and support staff members, and all students who have gathered today for this virtual meet on a very, very relevant topic. My namaskar, not just from my side, but from our Westlark's team side for this day being celebrated in this very correct manner. Like Principal Madam just said, it is wonderful to find students taking the initiative and taking things forward for a special day like today. And many of us might be thinking, Swami Vivekanand was someone who lived in 1863, he was born in 1863. How come his ideals are relevant even now? Are they really relevant now? So we'll get into a little discussion to see, and we'll find out, yes, it is very much relevant to us now, his thought that was there, his approach to life that he had. We'll also figure out what these words actually mean, like Bhumika explained and defined very beautifully some time back. What does responsibility mean? What does independence mean? How do the two converge? Because the two can actually converge for us. Before getting started, let me just share with you that, as you would be aware, VES is a signatory to the United Nations program called PRME, standing for Principles of Responsible Management Education. What this means is this college, VES College of Arts, Science and Commerce, along with some of the other higher education institutes of VES, happens to be a constituent college which is committed towards sustainability. And many students who are here today will be aware there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We call them SDGs for short. Today's interaction that we're doing is linked to SDG 4, which is on quality education. So on that note, I'll just share with you my screen and take you into a small set of slides, which is meant to help us understand and take this discussion forward a little bit about independence with a responsibility. So let me first, none of us needs an introduction as to why today's day has been selected as National Youth Day. And many of us who have read the works of Swamiji, who have been inspired by his quotations, would know that he was one of the most pragmatic and practical and yet deeply spiritual, one of the most profound thinkers you could find, meaning he did not talk only in terms of idealism. So people who came to him for advice and maybe they wanted to give up on life and samsara and move away into becoming saints and sages, he actually told them that go to the football ground and kick a football and have that vigor in your life and learn how to first do something before you're able to renunciate and become a renunciate. It's not easy to be a renunciate or a monk, in other words. So the point is, he was one of those rare people whose values and ideals continue to be cherished even today, simply because of this unique combination of deep profundity along with also a very wide pragmatism. Idealism needs to be practical so that we can implement it. Otherwise, the idealism stays something which we just worship with reverence in a textbook. Swamiji's idealism was practical. It could be put into implementation then, and it can be put into implementation now. So let me then take you into the little structure that we have for our discussion today. We start off by looking at the significance of some of his words. Then we talk about a question that some of us might have in our minds. Why do we bother? Meaning, what is the relevance to our lives? We then go to social goals, but we link it with personal goals. This is the part where responsibility comes in. And then we end with a few concluding thoughts. So let me start off by just taking you into this understanding of three quotations that he shared. I've deliberately picked three of the lesser known quotations because many of us are already familiar. One of his favorite quotes, for example, was "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached." We are all very familiar with that. That happens to be, by the way, from the Kathopanishad. And when Swamiji shared that with people, a lot of people got to know about the Indian scriptures for the first time, and especially in the Western countries, of course, because that is how the wisdom of this land reached across borders to many more hearts and minds. So the first slightly rare quotation that I have chosen for today is that we are what our thoughts have made us, and therefore take care of your thoughts. Now, some of us may say, okay, what does this mean or how is it impactful? This is the first quote for today because for us, responsibility starts with the mind. We need to keep in mind that when we choose to do any action, it could be something as small as simple as helping out at home with a task, or it could be something bigger, like becoming a student council member in college and taking on certain responsibilities. It could be something even bigger, maybe starting an NGO at some point of time and trying to make a positive difference in society. It always starts with a thought. In Sanskrit, that's why it is said, Ya drishti, sa srishti. So, therefore, it is very crucial for us to be mindful. What is it that we allow in our minds as thoughts? Now, some of us will say, is that possible? And that's a very valid question. An average human mind will have around 6,000 thoughts in a day. Obviously, it is not going to be possible for us, especially at an early stage of training, to become aware as to whether each of those thoughts is helpful to us or not. But with repeated reminders to oneself, with training oneself, with constant practice, we get better and better at filtration. So just think of maybe a water purifier in your home, or think of a simple filter that you might have seen or used somewhere in life. You know that there is some impurity, some debris, and that is natural, that's a part of life. But you want what is pure, so that what you're imbibing, what you're taking in yourself is of better quality. We need to do the same with our minds and our thoughts. So this is the impact of this little quotation that Swamiji gave us, and the whole concept, therefore, of responsibility begins from a thought which is helpful, which is that we are more than just individuals. We have to have some sort of an orientation towards the outside world in which we live, the society in which we live, and therefore we need to be mindful and cognizant of the thoughts we have. The second quotation that I found interesting: the more we are able to do good for others, the more our hearts are purified. Now, this is a classic quote for being vulnerable for misrepresentation. Because some of us with a slightly cynical bent of mind will think, if I do good for others, I'll get exploited. I'll become a doormat. Others will take advantage of me. Please note, it doesn't say that others will benefit and you will get glory or fame or whatever. It says your heart will be purified. What does this mean? The act of doing good, we feel we are benefiting someone else, but I'm sure you will agree with me, those of us, especially since we are NSS people here. I happen to be ex-NSS myself when I was in college. We know that doing an act of compassion, doing an act of service, doing an act of help leaves you feeling very good about things, and you get to see the power of change that every individual has. So if you look at it from a different perspective, you realize that doing good for others is actually making you a better person. It's making us better people. And therefore, our whole perspective shifts. We don't think of ourselves as givers. We realize that give and take equations go on happening in society, in life, and we feel privileged that we are able to help. So then what happens? We become more and more grateful to the universe, to divinity. If we are believers in the divine, then we have certain words or names through which we call the divine. Even if we don't, that's okay. We feel more grateful towards life. With that aspect of gratitude, that look, I'm in a position where I can help others. I have the time to help others. I have maybe the resources to help others. Later on, once you start earning the money to help others, every act of yours becomes more and more worshipful. So this is the second quote which becomes very relevant in the context of today's topic of discussion. The third quotation that I wanted to share is very important for us, especially in the current times we're living in. If you take a look at the social media or the news and you follow anybody on Twitter, example, you'll know what I'm talking about. Today, we have become hypersensitive and we get polarized very fast. And once we get triggered, it's very easy for us to start condemning, hating, labeling, judging people. There are times when we may not even have all the facts in our hands, but we are quick to jump to conclusions and we are quick to condemn people. So the third quotation of Swamiji that I wanted to share today: if we have to take responsibility for ourselves and later on for others, we need to practice the art of being non-judgmental. So he says, condemn none, If you can stretch out a helping hand, do so. If you cannot fold your hands, bless your brothers and let them go their way. The second part of what he says is very beautiful and worth keeping in mind, because very often in the course of our lives, we will not be meeting and encountering people whom we like, but can we still respect? We may not want to work or do service for people with whom we don't see eye to eye. Can we still do that? Can we still respect? And therefore, can we still do that act of service with a neutral mind? If not a very happy mind, at least a neutral mind. So these are the three slightly offbeat quotes that I felt were relevant to our discussion today. And there is a certain significance to this. Now the question next arises that, okay, we have understood the relevance, and what Swamiji says continues to be relevant even today, and we can understand how his words are linked to becoming more responsible for ourselves and for other people. Now the thing to ask ourselves is, how does this all tie up? So I'd like to show on this particular slide 3 words which are taken from Sanskrit: Vyashti, Sameshti, and Parameshti. The word Vyashti gives us the Hindi word Vyakti. It stands for the individual. The word Sameshti gives us the Hindi word Samuha, which means collective or group. And the word Parameshti refers to the universal, the totality, the completeness of the human experience that we have. Now it is said that all of us can choose our level of ambition in life. We could choose to be the kind of person who's always thinking in terms of I, me, and myself, who only thinks of my life, my progress, my food, clothing, shelter, my house, my bank account, later on my job, my career. We're not saying it's wrong, but what we are saying is there is an option to become wider and bigger in terms of our thought process. So when we grow to the next stage, and this can happen at any age, you don't need to be a person who's 25 plus or 30 plus. You can have teenagers who have wider ambitions. Then you come to the second stage, which is Sameshti. In Sameshti level of thinking, what happens is we don't stay stuck with I, me, myself. We realize that I am a part of this society. Let's say you are a student, so you're a part of a certain college. If you take actions to improve certain things, let's say you initiate certain new things, or you help in making some process better, some system better, you give suggestions, you're doing certain initiatives and new endeavors. What are you doing? You may think you're helping others, you're helping the college, you're helping the system. But since you are a part of that system, indirectly you're actually helping yourself. So somebody may say, how does this help? Won't it be better if I only help myself and not bother about others? The answer is no. When we take care of only ourselves and we stay restricted with that, we don't think beyond that, we become very vulnerable. Tomorrow, God forbid, if one thing goes wrong in any one part of our lives, we start floundering, we start to fall down. We're not able to cope. Whereas when we improve things around us, let's say you're a helpful sort of person, you're helping out your friends who are maybe struggling with their studies for whatever reason. Or like we said just now, you're making a positive difference in your college. Or let's say in the building where you stay or the housing society where you stay, you are taking some charge, some action, some responsibility. Then what are you doing? By changing the system for the better and you being a part of the system, you're actually making your position more secure in life. Tomorrow, God forbid, when help is required, you receive the help. Now, some of us will be thinking, okay, so therefore you give like an investment so that you can take. No, that would be a wrong conclusion. Sameshti level thinking does not mean being transactional. It is not like keeping the books of accounts where you have a debit and a credit and say, if I have done 5 good deeds for people, I should get 5 good deeds back. Sameshti level thinking means having the wisdom to understand it is not a one-to-one correlation, but when you give good things to the universe, Newton's third law of motion always holds true. To an action, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. since you are a fabric of that same society, that same country, that same planet, you get back what you have given. Yes, it may not be at the same time you expect, it may not happen in the same manner we expect, but it has to happen. This is the law of physics and the law of metaphysics. So this is samishti level thinking. So therefore, students who are smart from a very young age, they begin to ask questions about how do I add value to others? How can I be useful to others? How can I help others? And this is done not with a commercial or transactional motivation. It's done with an understanding of what we call as interconnectedness. The third level is Parameshti. Parameshti is, of course, for the likes of our Swamiji and a few other great people who have reached a level which is so sublime, where every action benefits entire humankind. Now, for us to reach there might seem like a dream, not really possible, an impossibility perhaps. But I would still say no. Whenever you do an action which is so good that others want to emulate what you're doing, you're setting a kind of a standard, let's say, and it can be in any domain. You are actually working with Parameshti level ambition because your work is going to have a positive ripple effect, inspire others, through them, others are inspired, through them, and so on and so forth. So it is perfectly possible to have young people who can reach the Parameshti level ambition simply by asking, am I doing an act to the best possible potential that I have? And it can be in any domain. It could be in terms of your studies, your co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, the NSS work you do. If you do something that is worthy of being called a brand, which reaches a certain level of quality where others look at that action and look at you and feel inspired, they want to actually emulate what you're doing. That's Parameshti. Is it possible? Yes. Is it easy? No. But then the thing is, if you're driven by things which are deeper in terms of values, then instinctively you will find yourself thinking in this manner. You'll not have to calculate in your head. If calculations are coming in, we're on the wrong track. We need to correct ourselves. In this slide, I'm quickly going to share what are the goals to keep in mind when it comes to society. But before that, let me stop the screen share for just a moment. And we're going to do a very quick little exercise. The exercise is this. I would like you to either close your eyes or you can choose if you want to keep it open. Think of one incident where you helped a person and think about how that situation made you feel. I repeat, close your eyes and think of a situation, an incident where you helped somebody. It could be anybody, somebody at home, somebody amongst your friends, someone in college, someone outside, anyone at all. And what did that situation make you feel after you did your act of helping? So just take a few moments, close your eyes and think. All right, I'll ask you to now open your eyes. I'm sure many of us would have already thought of the answers. No worries in case some of us found it a little difficult, not a problem. I'm going to request you to use the chat box and write one word to capture the emotion of what you felt when you helped somebody. Please just use a word or you can use a phrase. You don't need to write in whole sentences. Just use a word or a phrase. I repeat, please use the chat box to describe what you felt when you helped somebody. Okay, so Hina ma'am has written something beautiful. That's truly sublime. I can see some of the other answers coming in. Intense satisfaction, very good. Sunita ma'am, you've said happy and delighted, lovely. Happy, satisfied, a kind of peace. Yes, Bhumika, good. Let's see the other answers which come in. I think these answers have been very comprehensive, the ones that have come already so far. But I'd like to take a few more moments for students to think, just reflect about any situation where you helped somebody. Okay, self-satisfaction or respect for myself. Gotham, weird but nothing. Yes, that happens. That's fine too. It's perfectly fine. Great being, yes. Joyful. I like the use of that word, Fareen. Joyful. Gladness, good. Content, yes. So contentment, absolutely good. Let's see if there is any other kind of reply. Pleasure, yes. Good. Nice to see the answers. Nice to see the whole range. And I particularly commend the student who has said weird but nothing, because that's not easy to talk about when others are talking about things differently. So kudos for your honesty. And believe me, the emotion is perfectly valid, what you've described. Happiness. Achal, this is very sweet what you've written, like I've helped myself. Absolutely. So we'll stop this exercise at this point. It's wonderful to see the entire spectrum of answers that you have given. And a little bit of thought tells us that every time you have helped somebody voluntarily, willingly, not in a forced sort of way, that is a different story altogether. But you have voluntarily helped somebody, you would have felt something similar. And there are times you're helping someone you know, there are times you're helping a random stranger. Both are perfectly fine. The interesting thing is the joy that you feel has nothing to do with the person that you're helping. You may or may not know the person. Maybe it's the first and last time you encounter him or her. But that satisfaction you get, that stays pure, and that is not affected by whether or not you know the person. In fact, if you know the person that you're helping, there are more what we call as strings attached. There's more of emotional baggage that can come in. Whereas if it is someone who doesn't know you and you don't know that person, it gets easier. In fact, in the Tirukural, if any of us are familiar with the book, there's a beautiful quote which comes to my mind now, and I'd like to share that with you all. It is said in one of the couplets by Tiruvalluvar, the great Tamil poet, that real giving is only to the poor, all else is but exchange. What he means is, when we give, let's say, gifts to people, etc., when we do an act of service for someone with whom we have a sort of a relationship, maybe a friend or a cousin or a neighbor or whatever, in our minds, there is always a thought of reciprocation at a future date. Whereas when we give to somebody from whom we don't expect to get anything back, that is real charity. Because there you're doing an act of service which is not selfish. It is less selfish, let's put it that way. Why? Because in your mind, you're not calculating, okay, that in future when I need help, I'll be able to ask him or her. You do your act of service, you do your act of help, and you're complete with it. And that smile on your face or that smile in your heart is the biggest reward, the biggest prize, the biggest treasure that you can have. And I'm sure all of you, without exception, at some point of your life have felt this, because all of us here are grown up enough. Only very young children may not have had this experience, but anybody above the age of 8 or 9 years of age knows what we're talking about here. This is true for all of us. Namaskar, sir. Welcome to the session. Sir, would you like to say a few words? We are so honored and blessed that you're there with us today. For the sake of the others, let me just mention, I don't know if we are able to see, sir, we have our respected president, sir, Shri Amar Asrani ji with us. And we are very, I would say, more than honored. We feel pampered that he has joined us, because it's a nurturing on behalf of our seniors when, in spite of their busy schedule, they're able to be there with us, to guide us and share their thoughts with us. So for me to speak anything now, it becomes a case of chota muh badi baat. So I would request if you could say a few things.
Good morning, sir, and welcome for this session. Thank you so much for joining and encouraging us. सर आपने अनम्यूट नहीं किया है.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Carry on, Pia, carry on.
So that's very kind of you. I will then request you, kuch bhul chuk ho jaye to please do forgive me, because we are talking of Swami Vivekananda and it feels very presumptuous on our part to be talking of a legendary person and talking about the relevance of his teaching for our lives. But we will definitely try and go ahead and do what we can to the best of our ability. Thank you for that, sir. Thank you for your permission. So, taking this ahead, students, just now we did this little exercise, and it was so heartening to see all the things you shared, which is why we emphasized the quote by Tiruvalluvar, who says that real giving and real charity is only to those from whom we don't expect a return. When we do something with a return in mind, that's a transaction. That is not service, that is not giving. So, one of the important things to keep in mind is in the NSS, when we say National Service Scheme, that word service needs to be understood. We are doing actions with our full generosity of heart, knowing that we are not going to be getting a direct return from the person for whom we are doing. But yes, we are working with Sameshti level thinking, Parameshti level thinking. We know when good actions go to the universe also reciprocates. Students always keep Newton's third law of motion in mind. To an action, there is going to be an equal and opposite reaction. Of course, in metaphysics, we will be changing that slightly, but we'll take it forward from here. So let me show you. Therefore, we were talking about goals for society. Only three things we would like to highlight, because as young students, as the youth of India, the first responsibility that you have is to yourself be a healthy person and a productive citizen. Now, this might seem like something very simple. Many of us will be thinking, yes, we are anyway healthy. Why is ma'am telling us this? The answer is health doesn't just mean physical health, it means health of the mind and of the emotions. So, just now, sometime back, we were talking about how we need to filter our thoughts. That quotation of Swamiji, which we saw, that we are what our thoughts are. Good health, therefore, implies that even in terms of the mind and emotions, what we call as the manasic level, we are actually stable. We have equilibrium, we have sanity, we have resilience. The second part is being a productive citizen. Now, what does that mean? We know that in science we have studied the word parasite. A parasite is a creature, let's say a plant, which draws all its food and sustenance from another, let's say, tree. And it does not return anything in return. It doesn't give back anything. So the very word parasite is a negative word. It's got negative connotations. It means somebody who's just a taker and is not a giver. Now think about it, students. From the time we are born, we are taking. A baby, for example, cannot give back. He or she can only take. Take food, clothes, a home, shelter, resources, the love and care of parents. Then he or she starts going to school, and then again taking inputs, taking in data. Now, what is that child doing to give back? The answer is nothing, but then the child is not expected to give back because he or she is not capable. But then, as per our Shastras, once Brahmacharya ashram is reaching its culmination, we become aware as to what is our responsibility towards society. The concept of Rin Bandhan comes in, and we start asking, how do I give back? Therefore, when we give back, we are not calculating that now what I will get, because in our minds we know that from the time I was born on this planet, I have been a taker. Therefore, I have to give back to take care of those debts. That rin which is there, that rin bandhan which is there, I need to repay that. I need to take care of that. So the first, therefore, goal that we need to do is ourselves be healthy and work towards being productive. Work for the nation and work for society. And the work can be anything. It depends upon what is your domain of knowledge, etc. There is no work that is small or big. There is no hierarchy. Are you giving a value add? Each of us has what is called a different swadharma. Dharma doesn't mean religion. Dharma in the scriptures means one's own nature. So somebody may have the swadharma of being a research-oriented person. Somebody has a swadharma of being a musician. A third person may have the swadharma of being a very good networking person. Based on our mental constitution, what is called as pravrutti, we choose our jobs and careers, and we align those jobs to match who we are so that we are happy when we are giving back. We don't feel stressed, we don't feel burnout. Otherwise, imagine if you have someone who's inclined towards music being asked to do statistical work all day long. He or she will be highly frustrated, or vice versa. The second thing, this is very crucial for us, being ethical. Now, again, this word looks very textbookish and ideal. The question is, in our day to day lives, can we practice basic honesty? Can we make sure we follow the rules? And can we help others follow the rules wherever required? You don't need me or anyone else to tell you, students, that when we look around us, there is a lot of scope for improvement. But can we be a part of the solution rather than grumbling about what the problem is? So being ethical means even if I have not littered and thrown that paper on the road, if I see a bit of paper, I'm able to pick it up and put it into the bin. If any of us have ever done that, then kudos to you. You can pat yourself on the back. That way, we are actually exercising responsibility for other people. The third thing, this is something very important for India, I would say, as a nation, because we have the potential to be a world leader. We need to have in our minds a thinking of what is the best I can do and what is the minimum I can do. If we start off with the minimum, there is a problem, because then we are going to stop there. Our ambition ends there. We will stay with the Vyashti level ambition. We'll not be able to take it forward to Sameshti and Parameshti unless we ask, what is the best I can do? The moment you ask yourself that question, and it can be in anything, it starts with your studies. And then all your extracurricular, co-curricular activities. It's a mindset that don't stop with the minimum. I'm not saying do the maximum. There is a word called optimum. We do not want burnout, and we don't want ourselves to be stretched too thin, but we do want to do what is optimal. So the question therefore is, can I do more than just what is required? If someone tells me, okay, let's put in 5 hours of an NSS program as part of this activity. Can I say, okay, 5 is a minimum required, but I can put in 7 or 8 or 9. And it doesn't matter if that doesn't even get logged into my NSS diary, because I'm not only doing it for the marks, I'm doing it because I can see there is value. Simple example, NSS students are often volunteers at the time when you have the Ganpati Visarjan happening. And we all know that in Mumbai, that is such a huge exercise in terms of logistics for the Mumbai police. And every year there's a fabulous job that is done. I'm talking of course, the pre-pandemic times when the crowds on the roads used to be a lot. And let's say as an NSS student, you know that you have a certain number of hours to fulfill. Can you voluntarily do a little bit more than that if your body permits and you're not terribly tired, etc.? Just for the sake of the service. This thinking and culture can completely transform the way in which our society is today. And like ma'am said some time back when she introduced today's topic, it starts with the thinking of that one youth rising up and standing, and then you find others also following suit. Now, after this, we go into a very quick little segment, which is about personal goals. Because when we speak of responsibility and independence, we need to ask ourselves, all this is fine, but it seems to be for society. What do I do for myself? Let's say if I want to be a healthy and productive citizen, what should I be doing? The first suggestion, therefore, is learn to align your day with the sun. This is called the Circadian Rhythm. The Charak Samhita spoke of this 3,500 years back, the Ayurveda treatise. But 4 years back, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was won by 3 US doctors who said the same thing what was said in the Charak Samhita, that every cell of the human body is linked to the rising and setting of the sun. Now, how interesting is that? Once Western science puts a stamp of credibility, we have greater appreciation for a lot of our ancient scriptures. But then now the opinion is the same of all experts, that smart people will have this as a personal goal if they want to be healthy. The second, take care of what we call your daily self-recharge. We are all very familiar with our mobile phone recharge plans. Are we equally careful about our bodies and minds? Please note, this seems to be taking care of the body, but the mind and emotions are also taken care of, because neuroscience tells us the brain needs three things more than any other organ of the body. What are those three things? Sleep, oxygen, healthy glucose. So the correct number of hours of sleep and sleep during the correct time of the night. Second, for oxygen, exercise. And the third is healthy glucose, which means the correct eating, the correct meals, not skipping meals, not having junk foods which cause a lot of blood sugar spikes and then falls to happen. This is what we mean by daily self-recharge. But only recharging ourselves with these three things is not enough. As intelligent people, we need to be internally driven. Every day when you sit for your online lectures now, unfortunately, we are back to online. Hopefully, we'll be back to physical classes soon. You need to feel motivated. You need to want to keep your camera on and interact with the teacher and ask questions. How do you do that? Simply by defining what your goals are. When we know what our goals are, it becomes like the North Star in the sky. As you're aware, Dhruv Tara, it is called, it does not change its location. And in the past, when you didn't have GPS and computers, sailors would use the North Star to navigate and find their way. That star decides your course and pulls you forward. Each one of us has that in our minds in terms of our goals. And when you wake up in the morning and get started with your day, reminding yourself of this for just maybe half a minute or a minute makes a big difference. I want to do ... I want to be ... Finish those sentences in your mind. Do you want to be a successful entrepreneur? Do you want to join the IPS? Do you want to join the civil services? Do you want to be a social activist? Do you want to work with an NGO or start your own NGO? What is your dream? Define your dream more and more. And doesn't matter if the dream doesn't seem realistic, you will figure out a way to reach that goal. And as they say, if it's hard for you to reach the goal, change the plan, don't change the goal. Number 4, whenever we struggle with certain habits which we don't like, and we want to stop and remove that, bring in more and more of good habits, then there is no space for the bad habits. I'll give you an example. Some days back, a young student came to me asking for help because he said that during the pandemic, he was sort of addicted to what is known as Japanese manga and anime. And he told me, ma'am, I'm sleeping barely 4 hours a night. Can you please help? So I spoke to him and we figured out that he was very interested in starting his own business and he was intelligent enough. So even as a student, he was capable of starting his own business. So I suggested, why don't you begin working in this domain a little bit, talk to some friends, form your own little setup, start talking internationally, and then see how things go. And he found that, yes, this is possible. And this is the best part. Once he started doing this, automatically his need to watch the anime manga for entertainment fell. So when I spoke to him a month later, I asked him, how are you doing? He said, ma'am, on most days, I don't feel like watching that anymore because now my mind is completely consumed with this work. And later, once in a while, when I want to be entertained, I just watch that. So this is the 4th smart goal. Try and remove the bad by bringing in more and more of the good. Simple example, when we enter a dark room in the night, we don't take a broom and sweep out the darkness. We switch on the light. The light removes the darkness. There's the same thing we do with our lives. And the 5th and final thing, take one step at a time when you try to change yourself and identify what are your master habits. What are the key things you need to change? Is it waking up in the morning at a certain time? Changing one thing can change the entire course of your day. Is it having your meals at the right time? Is it making sure you're interacting with certain people in a certain manner? Is it managing your anger perhaps? Identify your master habits. But then take small steps. Don't expect that we will make changes to our lives overnight in multiple areas. As we reach the conclusion, there was this beautiful quotation I wanted to share. After listening to all these things and after participating in the little exercise which you all did, you might be thinking that what ma'am is saying is fine, but all this works in an ideal world. In my life, this can't work because my life is tough. My circumstances are tough. So I have to wait for things to be fine, and only then I can make changes. As you can see in this quotation, if you are irritated by every rub, how will you be polished? In other words, when life gives us adversities, those are meant to polish us. and we need not wait for a perfect time to begin. There is a lovely quotation in one of the Upanishads, whose meaning I will share with you in English. It is said, "The person who thinks he will do the right thing after all worldly problems have subsided is like the fool who thinks he'll have his bath in the ocean after all the waves have subsided." As you know, there is never a moment when the waves completely subside. When we want to take the plunge, we have to do it then and there. So it's always about the here and the now. And with this thought in mind, we feel empowered. We no longer feel small. We feel as if we can do what we want to do right now, where we are, as we are. So on that note, let me thank you for your patience. And I'm again sharing, this is one of my favorite quotations. If the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but not the goal. And thank you so much for being a truly wonderful audience. And most important, for giving Veslav the privilege of interacting with you on today's very special date and occasion. So my thanks once again to Principal Ma'am, to Vice Principal Ma'am, the teachers, the NSS office bearers, and the students. And my gratitude from the bottom of my heart to respected Asrani sir for sharing some of his time with us and blessing us with his presence. So kind of you to say that. I'm just seeing what's there in the chat. Truly kind of you. Thank you. In case there are any questions, we can take it forward. No problem if there are no questions. I think we are perfectly on time, so we'll just conclude the session in that case. So I will then hand it over to Bhumika. Thank you so much, Bhumika.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. That was really great of you and a really wonderful webinar. The part where you said ki do something and then we question ourselves whether we can do it or not. So yes, we can, but then it is easy or not, so not. That really gave a confidence ki whether it is easy or hard, but you should definitely do it. Or at least try doing it, because try till you succeed, and you do succeed. So thank you so much, ma'am, for spreading so much of positivity and confidence, and thanks for being an inspiration. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I now request Sunita ma'am, the program officer of NSS, to officially give the vote of thanks.
Good morning and Jai Hind to all. We, the NSS team and Student Council, are happy and privileged to have such an eminent personality of our own sister organization, our lovable and respected Priya Madam, on this Youth Day program. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Priya Madam for her insightful and energetic speech and thought for the day. So we hope that this is a great day for the celebration with my NSS team. So thank you, Anita Madam, for giving permission for organizing this event. I must thank the organizing team, Sujit Chauhan sir, and the committee members and our students who have worked for organizing this event. Last but not the least, this is an intercollegiate event, so many students from other colleges have also participated. And in this gathering, I find many non-NSS students are here and many teachers are here. I must say thank you so much for attending this program. And this is a great day for all of us. Thank you, one and all present here. And last but not the least, I must extend my heartfelt thanks to Sasank for the technical support he has given every time for the organization of various online events. Another one thing I wanted to emphasize here, Priya Madam, we know that our college is the signatory of PMRE scheme, and every year I am enlisting the activities which our NSS team is conducting, and they are contributing a great deal for a better health as well as quality education and for all other SDG goal. And our students are not aware about that, in what way they are contributing to the sustainable development, to the achievement for the sustainable development goal. Thank you once again, Priya Madam, and all the teachers, principal madam, and all the students who are present here for this uh, event. Thank you.
I will like to come in here.
Yes,
Sunita
madam.
madam, you can have one session by Pia madam to highlight the SDGs of PRM scheme and sustainable development. She will definitely be very happy and will enlighten the student about the PRME goals, etc.
Yeah, madam, sure. Thank you.
So please organize one session.
Yeah. So student must know okay, what are the SDG and how they can do more and more activities in this respect. Yes, sure, I'll do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anita ma'am. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sumita
you.
ma'am, for this. Thank you and Jai Hind. And we'll definitely take things forward for the other work. This is Sameshti level thinking that we're doing. Hopefully, we will also get to the Parameshti level thinking. This is the practical implementation that the seed of thought gets sown here, and that seed then grows to the next plant that we look forward to. So it's totally been our privilege, our pleasure, and an honor today to be interacting with all of you. And now that you say, ma'am, that there are students of other institutes as well, our
Yes.
thanks to them for joining in and being a part of this collaborative venture. And thank you so much for your patience, your kind patience in listening to our session today. Thank you very much. It's truly been an honor.
Thank you, Pia
Thank you,
madam.
madam.
As usual, this also was a wonderful session, and I hope the student must have taken note of what preaching you have done today. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Over to you, Bhumika. So with this, we come to the end of this program.